What is going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of Mikasa Sukasa. And of course, as always, I'm your humble host, Niko House. Today, we want to address something that has really not only been splintering the progressive movement, but our ability to achieve progressive, leftist, or populist policies as a whole. Whether you want to talk about universal health, bringing the medication that's already available into the country in masse so that we can deal with this COVID-19 crisis. The gain power and corrupt without any accountability. Today, the guest I'm bringing on wants to talk about how to bridge that divide. So I would like to introduce you all to Egberto, who's recently written a book, and he's going to talk to us about this today. Egberto, what's going on, man? Thanks for coming on the show.
Man, it's always a pleasure to be with you, Niko. It's great to see you. You're looking great, and you're doing a lot of good things. Great to be here, my friend.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. And I also, of course, appreciate you having me on your show last time. And it's interesting because I feel like no matter what conversation we're having, no matter what disagreements we have as far as maybe how to achieve some of our goals, like as leftists, we seem to agree that this is one of the biggest problems that we have as a human race, but especially as Americans when we're talking about trying to get policies passed. So can you go ahead and let people know the name of your book, where people can find it, and of course just give a synopsis of what it's about.
Absolutely. You can get the book. It's called It's Worth It: How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. And in as much as it says right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors, as Niko can tell you, when you're in the movement on the left side, a lot of times you feel like the people to the right of your leftness, or even sometimes to the left of your leftness, needs a different way, a different approach to talk to these people. All these approaches that I talk about in the book works around the clock. In other words, the most important thing that I try to display in this book is communication. But and by the way, to get the book, you can just go to Amazon and look up my name, Egberto Willies, and you'll see all the books that I've written, or just look up It's Worth It: How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors on Amazon. Alternatively, you can come to my website, egbertowillies.com, and click on books. And once you click on books, you can get to it. But anyhow, the tenet behind this book is how we can all communicate together so that we can really fight the real battle that needs to be fought. Because what has happened, Niko, in my humble opinion, is that we have allowed that plutocracy, that oligarchy, that imperial power that you and I and many others always talk about, to go ahead and look at those things that we say we have as differences and use them against us, so that the vast mass of us are there fighting among each other, not realizing that we need to look up there for where the problem really is.
Yeah, I would agree. It's funny that you talked to me about coming on the show before Jimmy Dore went on Tucker Carlson on Fox News, somebody who is kind of despised by the left on a network that is definitely despised by leftists and Democrats. And yet he went on the show to deliver Donald Trump a message that included universal health care, that included ending the wars, that included holding the corrupt Republicans that he ran on being anti-establishment and beat them, right? Including holding them accountable. And Tucker Carlson said to Jimmy Dore, a rabid, angry leftist like myself, he said that you're giving Donald Trump more or better advice than any of the conservatives in Washington. And that is huge compared to where we were 4, 5, 6 years ago. Because we see right now, the Democrats have no problem teaming up with neocons to beat us. And the Republicans have no problem teaming up with a lot of the neoliberals, at least the highest ranking ones, to beat us. And then, of course, subsequently, their populist base. So when are the populists, the ones who are actually anti-imperialist, the ones who are pro-universal health care, when are they going, or when are we going to start bridging that same gap so we can start getting some victories on our side?
We are going to bridge that gap when we grow up. That's the bottom line. We are going to bridge that gap when we've grown up. You've grown up.
Oh,
Uh,
thank you. Somebody else said
you
that
know,
the other day. Actually, that's weird.
no, and the reason
Because of my
let me,
beard. It's because of my beard.
no, not because of your beard, because of who you talk to. You don't restrict yourself to the choir. You extend yourself to the right. You extend yourself to the middle. You extend yourself everywhere. You're willing to have that conversation with all these different people. And that is, believe it or not, that is a tenet of my book, right? In other words, we have to grow up and we have to learn how to create alliances. But most importantly, we have to understand, Niko, that the things that we want, ironically speaking, most people want as well. They have just been taught to want it differently. One of the things about the book, right? The book is 231 pages. A quick read according to a lot of the people, and the reviews are actually pretty damn good. I have to say that because it's like, oh, really? Wow, I never thought about that. But one of the things that I want to tell you that's important, right, is if you take a look and you itemize all the things that people want, and then you see whether this come from people. You don't give it an ideology. You don't say left, right, progressive, or anything like that. You just go ahead and talk about the things we want. People have equal access to healthcare and all of that. You'll see that the vast majority of people, 60 to 80% of people, come down and want the same thing. So here's the posit that I had in the book. I had a conversation sitting down at a Starbucks with a woman. And this was I'm in a very conservative area, and that's where I live. And I sit down in a very conservative Starbucks. And as I'm sitting down in Starbucks and I'm talking,
that's funny you say conservative Starbucks. I'm like, huh?
Come on now. But so I'm sitting down there, and this woman comes up, and she said, "I see you in here all the time writing." And I'm like, "Yeah." And she says, we got into healthcare. I don't remember exactly how, but and then I went ahead and I explained to her what I'd like to see in healthcare. And she was loving it, and she was even offering her ideas as well. And I know this woman is conservative, and I know how this woman thinks, right? And by the end of, I start to feel guilty. I'm like, oh my God, this woman thinks this is some black Republican here, and she's agreeing with this. So I'm guilty now, and I say, ma'am, I want you to know something. I'm a left-wing, progressive, democratic socialist, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And she looked at me and she said, oh, eyes wide open, face red, and she says, but you're so nice.
Yeah, that happens often. Yeah.
Okay. So you get what I'm saying, Niko. You understand what I'm saying. So I'm looking at her and I'm like, man, what you have to do is interact with people, and you realize that we are all being played. Yep. We are all being played. And once we realize that we are all being played, we can have a conversation. So the way I divided that book, Niko, is I went ahead on the table of contents, all of that you can find at my website as well. I went ahead and talk about how you talk to people, how you respect people. You and I disagree on it. And by the way, you share a lot of that commonality, because I've been on your show before, you've been on my show, and we disagree on issues, right?
Well, actually, I don't think we disagree on necessarily issues.
Not issues.
People, like approach. That's about it.
Maybe approach. We disagree.
Yeah, approach. There you go.
Right. But the thing about it is, I don't come after your neck and you don't come after mine. A lot of times we have fun with it. A lot of times we just discuss it. A lot of times you will say, well, like, Berto, I think it would be better if you acted this way. And I may say, no, look here, Niko, I think it's, and that is how you have a constructive. I went to a Tea Party event. I also put that in the book. I went to a Tea Party event in a redneck portion of Houston. Only black person there, only progressive there. What you call those flags again? The
rebel flags.
Right. The rebel flags, all of that in there. And I'm sitting down in there.
You know how I lived in the South. I immediately knew what you were talking about.
You sure do, brother. You sure do. But, so we go out there and we start talking. These people, they wanted to show me in that place that they weren't racist. They are racist, but they wanted to show me that they weren't. Okay? That's fine.
Yeah, it's funny that happens. Like they go out of their way, they do extra shit.
Yes, yeah, they wanted to show me that, but they were, and the things that they said, they in trying to be nice, they showed who they were. That's okay. But by the time we were done, because of the conversation we had, I don't say that they're not racist anymore, but I can say one thing: they look at you and me quite a bit differently, because they never had somebody who was willing to break that barrier, go into them, and not first do a lot of talking to them, but hear what was their real grievances, because they think they have grievances, right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we got the whips and we got I don't care if you're from Panama or Cuba or wherever, we got whips all over the damn place on
Yeah.
this hemisphere, right?
Yep.
So,
Look in Bolivia. You know what I'm saying? That's a
yes,
perfect example.
yes. Well, moral, yes. Anyway,
Well, I'm
we'll,
saying like he's indigenous, but I'm saying like look at what happened to the indigenous people. And of course the white minority was with the help of the U.S. was look at what they were able to do and look at how much pain they caused. But for basically for no other reason that those people were indigenous. Like that's really what it comes
exactly.
down to.
Exactly. So these people thought they had grievances. By the time we were done, I wasn't trying to tell them they don't have grievances. I was trying to get them to acknowledge our grievances, right?
Yep.
And you know what? It's amazing because that's where they got. Let me tell you how you don't know if you're successful unless a few days later people still want to be in touch with you, because after the event is done, right, they
Mm-hmm.
can wash their hands off of you and say, okay, we got that out of here, we said the piece that we want. But that's not what we got. We got a people that started to contact me and say, hey, Egberto, you know what you think about this? They constantly wanted sort of more information to kind of get where their position really was. And let me tell you how interesting it got. Even one of the daddies called me up. Hey, I'm a computer guy and I'm starting this new business. Are you interested in partnering with me?
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, wow. And Niko, this comes from, first of all, people tell me that I don't see how you have the patience to talk to those people. And I would say the reason the reason I can talk to them is they're not those people.
Mm.
Because you know how people refer sometimes to black folks as
As
those
those
people.
people, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So even though many times I'm not afforded the respect from them, I try a false reciprocity. I even as I don't get it, I try to give it and see how far
Give
it
the
gets
energy
me.
that you want to receive. You know,
Right.
that's important. 'Cause that's what you should be doing, by the way, in any aspect of your life. Like for anybody who wants to be successful in anything you do, you should be giving the energy that you want to get back. That's how you start successful businesses, successful relationships. That's how you should treat your kids. That's how you should treat your parents. And and I would say that of course if you want to be successful, and when you're talking about somebody who considers themselves on the other side of the spectrum of you really have to keep that type of energy because like we can go in combative, and of course what are you going to get back? Like I'm not going to go in and attack this person, expect for them to treat me to ice cream and a beer. Like that's
Right.
not how it works.
Right.
And I was at a conference called Better Discourse, and I was on a panel with two leftists. It was me and another leftist and two conservatives. I was the only black person to speak actually at this event. But they went out of their way to invite me and they did invite others. To be clear, other people did not want to go because there
Mhm.
were too many conservatives. It was like going to be half and half. That was too much for them, and I had no problem. I'm like, yeah, of course. And I actually had been talking to the conservatives that I didn't know were conservatives before the event started, and they didn't know I was a leftist until the event started.
Mhm.
But we had just had such a good time. We didn't, oh, what's up? We didn't know we're on the panel together. And of course, there were some disagreements. But by the end of the panel, a couple of conservatives from the audience came up to me and told me that their mind had been changed on reparations. They were like, well, I don't know if they was like, I don't know if I believe in the cash payment side, but the argument you laid out, I just had never heard that before. And I
Mhm.
never thought about it like that. I'm like, yeah, I mean, and they were like, well, what do you think about, for example, indigenous reparations? Like, I'm like, oh, I actually think they should get it first. And they were like, wow, okay. And just being principled, right, and consistent will win somebody over. Because they're thinking their image of the left is what? The right, in my opinion, is very good at selling the hypocrisy of the left.
Mhm.
Because it's easy to maintain the status quo. That's basically the right's goal, right? Is to maintain the status quo. It's easy to be consistent in doing that. It's
Right.
hard to be consistent when you're talking about change and why you want that change. And I
That
think that
is
what the left really has to work on is being consistent. It can't just be about me because the right is doing the same thing. Let's be honest, right? They're preserving their status quo that benefits them. So why would they want it? So if you're going to be selfish, then once again, it's about the reciprocation of energy. But if you are consistent, like I said, in that particular situation, I fully 100% believe that indigenous are owed a lot of money in this country. And I would be perfectly fine if they got theirs first. And that's kind of like how we just, like I said, we just have to be able to reciprocate the energy. So I 100% agree. So have you gotten, have you gotten negative reviews from your book yet?
A native review? No, I got reviews from all the people who read it. That's what I really look for. I am not looking for the big names. I'm looking for the persons who read the book. Let me tell you a little concept here that I do. I've written 3 books. Every book I have actually written, produced, and marketed on my own for one specific reason. There is the owner of the largest website, I won't give the name right now. He called me up and he said, Egberto, who do you use to market your book? And I said, I do it all myself. He said, because I was, he said something to the effect, I don't remember what he got. Somebody asked him to write a book. They gave him $10,000, but he never made any money thereafter because the book sales and all of that kind of stuff, by the time they took all your cuts and by the time they did all this stuff, he was left with nothing. And not only that, they decided how it was marketed, et cetera, et cetera. I'm first an activist, second a radio host, blogger, and thirdly an author. And I write about the things that really affect what I think is the masses, as well as your personal being, like in the Weight Watchers book that I wrote. I mean, in today's day, you don't need to have anybody out there that's marketing your book. If you have your own system, you do it yourself. And guess what? All 3 of them have done very well. And guess what? All 3 of them have been done solely through independently. And I'm encouraging quite a few more people that have a voice that think they need the approval of the system to go ahead and do it on your own. And like one of the books that I'm writing, I have like 3 or 4 more books actually it's 4 more books in the chain. And one of them is about talking to people like us, who have platforms, who have a message, and many are out there looking for somebody to, what is the word that I want to use? Looking for somebody to affirm them. I'm like, oh, you don't need anybody to affirm you. I'll affirm you. You'll affirm you. Niko will affirm you. All of us will affirm you. We don't need to have the plutocracy in charge of whether and how our book's going to be marketed.
Yeah, and so the conversation that we had the first time we talked actually is like the reason I decided to do a book. I'm doing a book soon. I don't want to give out the name and everything like that, but it's coming. And it's going to be released around.
And January. It's going to be on my site too, brother.
Oh, I appreciate that. Like I said, and that's kind of what we have to do around the like activists and independent journalists and populists really have to really just promote each other and market each other, because as we've seen from Google as of late, it's not coming from them. They're not going to let us get the message out. It's really up to us. We have to do it the way that people did in the old days.
Right.
Get out and push it and network and build. And that's really and I think that it's coming. The wave is coming. I'm starting to see it more and more, and there are more people connecting like that. And I think that like I said, when I talk to him, I was like, damn, I think I could do that. I definitely think I could do that. I mean, like I was at UNC when I tell you I probably had to type 227 pages a week. So that's not difficult for me. But the marketing and the publishing side was what I was worried about. And when you told me like, yeah, no, it's not that difficult and it's better for you in the long run, I was like, you know what, I think I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And I think I can say what the topic is going to be. The topic is going to be about just the consistent patterns of the breakdown in democracy and how that's used against us to maintain power, and how like there's this just massive campaign of deception to convince us that whenever somebody says they want to go bring democracy that it's not about democracy, it's about something else. It's usually about a type of control. And so definitely going to be the goal of the book. And I'm like really excited about it. But now I'm like I said, more excited because I've always wanted to write a book for like the last 3 years. But the publishing and the marketing has been what always worried me. And you kind of like brought peace of mind to me when we talked a few months ago about like, no, that's actually not that difficult. It's just like finding the time to sit down and focus and getting it done. That's the most difficult part.
Niko, I want to add to something that you just said there, right? Because what happens in the country, right, is that you have the stockbroker that sells stocks for companies. The people work for these companies, and I put this in the book as well. People work for these companies, and these stockbrokers that sit down and push paper create a job for themselves as if they're really needed. The executives create a job for themselves as if they're really needed. The guy who, you remember when in the days, you're younger than I am, but in the early days and when you had records, right, you had to have, to even get heard, you had to have somebody who pushed your record to a radio station. All these, that's done with, right? That's done with. And what we realize when people have freedom, a lot of people on the right and the left like to talk about freedom. Real freedom is really access to the market, right? Access for people to see what you can do, right? And in the past, there were doors that were put up. There was a false freedom. You had to be discovered. Who the hell have to discover that Niko House is a smart dude with his own radio show that knows what the hell is going on? You know that. So why the hell do you need somebody to affirm you? You don't. So what we preach is like, hey, we have the freedoms right now. That's what we got to guard against now. Net neutrality and all these guys. We got to guard against that now because we got to make sure that we don't lose the real freedom that we've attained, right? And a lot of the narratives, this book is about a little bit about how we talk to people. How much can I really say about, hey, Niko, the way I can talk to people on the right and the left is I make sure to be nice and respectful and civil, and I also hold back my feelings where I know that it's, I mean that can be covered in 20 or 30 pages. But the other parts of the book, what it does is, one, it gives us an enlightenment to how the system really works, right? And how this system is used so that we don't have civil conversations, so that we don't have love for each other and all that kind of stuff. Because I tell you what, if you sit down and talk to a lot of these people that you think you should hate, and you sit down and talk to them, and the first thing you talk about is, hey, my daughter's in school right now, and she's going through this. The first thing they're going to want to do as well is, yeah, my daughter is XYZ. And you start seeing those commonalities. Suddenly it's like, oh shoot, you mean you put on your pants the same way I do, man?
Yeah, that's it.
You see, so that's the whole deal.
I mean, we might not put our, do our hair the same. But,
hey, I want to do my hair like yours, man. You think I could find a way to do it like yours, Niko?
Look, I mean, I don't know if there's a dye strong enough to dye. Look, somebody found that magic formula to bring hair back. I don't know where all these celebrities are finding hair after not having it for years, but there's a secret out there. Somebody need to give. And it ain't hair plugs either. People are really growing their hair back. I don't know. Maybe it's this marijuana legalization. Maybe weed's helping people grow their hair back.
Hey, by the way, folks, we got to get that going. We got to get the marijuana legislation going, man.
Yep, and we also need to start building some business, some working class worker-owned co-ops to make sure that we don't have the marijuana industry end up like the tobacco industry, and then have Monsanto and Bayer pumping them full of GMOs.
It has already started. Boner is on one of the boards of a marijuana company. Think about that. Former House Speaker Borner. What?
People don't know. And the racism that was in the tobacco industry and in the cotton industry is now is continuing over into the marijuana industry and the hemp industry. And people are being prevented from getting licenses, and it's a big deal right now in Maryland. I know. So it's that's why, like I said, we just have to put together. But this is like, once again, this is kind of like that conversation, the conversation that we need to be having. I don't think anyone would disagree that everyone should have equal access, because like in obviously in Black communities, we were detrimentally affected by this plant that like now liberal, middle class white people are able to make millions and millions of dollars off of. But also in a very unique way, if there's no Black people there, the poor white people suffer in the same way. They're the ones who were villainized by that plant. You know,
Right.
in that and so in their community, I can guarantee if you go to somewhere in West Virginia, they're being disallowed from getting their fair share in that profit where a lot of their people suffered from it. And so those are the commonalities that we really have to find between each other. Once again, Egberto, tell everybody where they can find you at and where they can find your book.
All right. First of all, you can find my show at politicsdoneright.com. Again, that is at politicsdoneright.com. You can find the book at my website, which is egbertowillies.com, egbertowillies.com. Just click on books. But if you want to find it at Amazon, since I know my name is sort of one of those difficult names to say, you can just go to amazon.com and look up It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. And it's by Egberto Willies, me. And you know, I guarantee you're going to enjoy the read. And especially in these times when we have a whole lot of times for those who must stay home, it's a good, solid read, whether you get it on Kindle or you get the hard copy. Now, if you buy it from our store, meaning if you buy it from our website, I'll autograph the books because I'll send it out if it's ordered from my website. If it's ordered by from Amazon, of course, I can't run up to the warehouse at Amazon and sign it. So, you know, so please go to egbertowillies.com, politicsdoneright.com, or just look it up at amazon.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, Egberto. As always, it was absolutely a pleasure. Make sure you all go to his website, go check out that book. It's something that I feel like the left is in dire need of, and I'm kind of surprised that there hasn't been a book about this already. But Egberto is doing all of us a favor.
Can I give you some kudos, brother?
Oh yeah, go please.
All right, let me tell you something, folks. We need young, vibrant, intelligent people in this business. And when I found Niko House, I can only say that I was very impressed with this young man because this young man knows the material. And we don't find a whole lot of that. There's a lot of people talking on the screen. There are very few people who understand the material in depth and how it affects different communities.
I appreciate that.
He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Look, like I said, man, what we do really requires us to profit off of people's pain, and our job should be to put ourselves out of business. And if that's not what you're in this particular industry for, then in my opinion, you shouldn't be in it. You're in the wrong industry. And if you can't recognize that, well, then to be frank, you're probably a sociopath. Because like the worst news that our best videos and the most views we get is from the worst news available. You know, that detrimentally affects people's lives, and they're trying to learn about that so they can figure out how to pivot. And that's something that I take very seriously, which is why I do the research that I do, that I fight the fight that I do, that my team, shout out to everybody else on the MCSC network, Convo Couch, Robbie Yeager, Lucas, Marcellus from Black Sheep Theory. All of us take that responsibility very seriously. And that's why we're, you know, a rainbow coalition of people just trying to bring change in however we can. Like I said, we're activists first as well. So, you know, we both have that in common. So I definitely appreciate those words. And make sure, like I said, y'all go follow Egberto on Twitter, go get his book. And thank you all so much for tuning to this live stream interview on Mi Casa es Su Casa. But always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.